All right, we are live. What's up, everyone? There's going to be some delay, so it's going to be like me talking to myself for a while before the audience starts to acknowledge it. But how's it going, everyone? Glad to be back live with you. It's been a while, and today this is a monumental kind of live stream because today I am with my first ever guest live. I've got my man Dan Johnston here. His channel is called Dreams Around the World. Dan, how's it going today?
It is going very well. I was joking with you before that in true ENFP fashion, I had everything set up maybe 20 minutes ago, and a minute before we went live, I'm like, I need to adjust my microphone height and, run around this apartment trying to find a book to put it on. So for any ENFPs or INFPs in your audience, I can relate.
You had to exert your control at the last second over it. I got people in the chat saying, I don't approve of the tardiness. I mean, we were maybe 1 minute late. So
I'm guessing those are not the ENFPs in the audience.
Yeah, it's we probably got a few EJs in there who were like, you're late. This is not acceptable. If you're on time, you're late. So wow, we got 250 people watching. This is awesome. How's everyone doing today? We got good vibes there in the chat. We got ENFP and INFP. Dana asks, is Frank an INFJ? I don't remember. Sometimes I forget too, but yes, here I am, INFJ. How's everyone going? Where in the world are you all right now? All around. I ask these questions and I forget there's a delay. I expect an instant response and I don't get one. So, but
always awkward with that. At least I'm here. I can make you feel
at least
a little
you're
less
here.
crazy today.
Yeah. Well, Dan, you're not. So I'm in the United States right now. Of course, Dan, you're off dreaming around the world right now. Where are you?
I am in Germany at the moment, in Hamburg, Germany.
Nice.
And there's surprisingly little time delay with us, which is good. There is between us and the chat, but not between us together.
Right. Isn't that amazing? It's like you can instantly talk with someone halfway around the world.
We forget that. I remember when I was a kid, so my mom is from New Zealand, and so there's, calling family there. My mom would be up late at night often calling her mom and her sister and stuff. And it was a significant household expense to be able to phone home. Like I can remember my parents having that discussion about, okay, what phone plan do we need? Do we not have some milk? No, I mean, we could afford milk, but like, what do we not do to be able to call New Zealand? Because New Zealand also is not a standard destination on the Canadian long distance plans either. So
yeah,
it was probably $100 or $200 a month, if I remember. Like it wasn't a small thing to be able to phone. And now for $10, you get a SIM card almost anywhere in the world and you could call up anyone in the world. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You had to choose between getting your medication or calling New Zealand. I'm seeing people in the chat from all over the place. I saw Morocco. I think I saw Germany. I saw the Czech Republic. We got a couple of
nice.
We got a couple
Poland,
of super chats. Marisa, thank you for the super chat. Haley, thank you for the super chat. That's awesome. Yeah, it's looking good. This is actually a new program, they call it Google Rodeo, to do live chats with a guest. It's awesome. So we got 450 viewers now. So for all of you who don't know, this is Dan. His channel is Dreams Around the World. He's an ENFP. He and I have got a live event coming up just in a couple weeks here, October 24 and 25. We're calling it NF Connect Live. It's a workshop. We got several workshops we're going to be bringing to you, basically about improving all these different areas of your life, connecting with yourself, connecting with the world, connecting with the life you want. Dan, why don't you say a few words about this? Let me pass it over to you.
Yeah. My laughing, by the way, was not at anything you were saying. I was just, I'm Canadian. I channel world. I've been working as some kind of a coach since 2013 and doing as well YouTube. I've written some books actually about different MBTI types and that as well. And my approach to things is all about helping people become the best version of themselves. There's some self-acceptance there as well as some very practical aspects of it. So if we're like, my dad was or is an ENTJ. I don't think you retire out of being an ENTJ, although retirement is tough for the ENTJs. And my mom, yes, FAC, where it's not even about accepting yourself, Zen type approach or some deep self-love, although that is also important. But from a practical approach, if you're always trying to be an ENTJ and you're like, I'm an ENFP, if you're trying to act like an ENTJ your whole life, that's not going to work out. So not only are you going to be unhappy and tired a lot of the time, but you're not actually going to get those results because you can't beat an ENTJ at an ENTJ's game, right? If you're trying to outwork, out-organize, out-systemize an ENTJ, it's not going to work out very well for you, right? You're going to, for a variety of reasons. So I'm about figuring out who you are and then taking a very positive approach to strengths and to building your life, designing your life. I talk about a lot around your natural strengths and what is going to be you and all that sort of stuff. I can go off on a live without people getting mad, but I can go for hours here.
Well, I might just sit back and let you go on. Oh, and a real quick program note, I saw that our stream got a little bumpy there, a little connection got a little bit bad, but we're sticking it through. It looks like it's recovered. So if there is a little lag, we'll keep going, even though everything within me is like, oh my gosh, everything is crashing and burning. But that's a great thing that you point out is, if you're trying to be someone else, if you're trying to act in a way that is not entirely like the way that you're meant to be acting, then it's going to cause you a lot of, friction and conflict in your life. And I mean, this is just like a general thing I think everyone kind of realizes, but once you start to put the personality type on top of it, that really opens up your eyes to being like, oh, that's what that means. I've been trying to be like, use the ENTJ, like that's tough to be. If you're an INFP, for example, and you're trying to be an ENTJ, good luck. That's like almost the opposite of what the way that you're wired. So I think the thing is that we want, like everyone, no matter what type you are, we all kind of want the same things. And sometimes we think, oh, the path to get there is to do what that other person is doing, even if they're a completely different type. And it's like, no, you can get those same things. You can get the life you want. You can, find the meaningful connections in life that you're looking for, but you can take the path that is best for you, best for your type. It doesn't have to be based on someone else's game book, game plan, game book. I'm making up words here,
You have a big enough channel, you can make up words now.
It's a little bit Shakespearean of me,
Very much so.
Right. Really quick, I want to give some shout outs to stuff in the chat here. Marisa White, thank you for the super chat. Giving you a shout out. Julianne Herrick, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for that. So, back to what we were talking about, being yourself, finding your own strengths, rather than trying to be someone else. I mean, that's a lot of what is going to play into this whole theme of connection.
Definitely. What's funny with it too is I know your audience and mine as well is mostly NF types. I've seen in the chat a few ENTJ bros, but generally I think NF types. And what is funny. Sometimes the people we feel a lot of pressure from are types. What is actually going to be fulfilled is probably a lot more logical of a move than to roll the dice and like stick to one thing. Let's say, like, there's a lot of people I'll talk to where they followed a certain life game plan and then they're like 40, they're not very happy with it, and then they're resetting everything at 40. So they thought they were following this safe, logical plan in terms of maybe saving or taking a safe job or whatever it is. But if you're not happy, that's not a logical plan, because you're going to burn out and burn your life down before you hit 65. And even if you don't, what kind of a life plan is that, right? So I like to try to out logic the supposed logical types, and by doing what they would say is not logical. Let's say that.
That's quite profound, Dan. And that actually reminded me of something I heard from an ENTJ who was doing that kind of logical, had a plan for her life and was doing, putting everything into, building that kind of logical step-by-step thing. And then one day someone said to her, you're going to get to be 40 and look around and realize that there were things that were outside of this plan you had that you wish you had done, that you wish you had experienced. And so you need to like open up a little, like loosen up the plan a little bit, you know what I mean? And not be so much just into the step-by-step, what is going to work out for me.
Yeah, I think most definitely. And it's not to be the ENTJ hate hours.
No,
lots of
I love
ENTJs apply their logic very well. Yeah, it's being clear about what you want, right? So if you're not someone who wants whatever that is, the structure or stability maybe that you would get from more of an ENTJ life, then trying to pursue that path is not going to lead anywhere positive. And if you do want that, like, I have a good ENTJ friend I won't name because he's quite big on YouTube, even bigger than you, Frank. I know there's someone. I know, it's crazy. And he's very clear, like, he wants to be a tycoon. And he's, told me this for years. He's like, this is what I want. And he's done that. He's applied the ENTJ. Like, he has used his personality to its fullest to achieve his goal in a way he enjoys it. So he's quite a balanced guy. He's healthy. He has a great marriage. He's recently had his first kid, and he's doing the ENTJ thing very well and is happy. And like, there's this coaching exercise called the Wheel of Life, where you of your life and sort of see if there's imbalances, because everything is connected in a way. And I'd say he's probably solid on all of them. So it's not to say any type is wrong. I think it's when you try to go against your type, or you're not aware of what you really want, or what makes you happy, or what you can do really well. And that's where we can all get into trouble. Right, exactly. Yeah. I think, with any type, if you go too far all in, there are drawbacks to it. I had a few people in the chat who said, nope, ain't no one bigger than Frank. They were like, I'll see about that. Yeah. So I also saw a question in there that was saying, like, well, how are you supposed to figure out, like, what are you doing with your life? Like, where do you even begin with a lot of that stuff? And that's part. Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think the fact that you're watching this video instead of the Kardashians or, the latest Netflix show probably says you're on track to figure that out. I would say, like, if this is how you spend your time watching people talk about what's important in life and personality type, you're doing that to some extent. I mean, there's, some more things. I'll think about maybe some more tips and things I can add. And obviously we're doing next weekend. how would you describe it? As 10 days from now. The event, I guess 9-10 days from now. Obviously, that's part of the theme. If you've looked at the website, is around figuring out what you want in life. But I think it's a process. It's getting rid of the noise is really important. So if you fill up your empty space with noise all the time, even if it's, and I hate to say this, but even if it's positive noise, like listening to great podcasts that are educational or things, but if there's always something playing, especially if it's more negative, like watching the news or sort of gossip or things like that, you eliminate that silence, and that is not a good thing to do, right? You need that silent time to reflect. One of the things with the event, we'll have about 3 hours of workshops a day, but it's 6-hour days. And that's very intentional. And part of the instructions for everyone is between the workshops, don't like flip on the TV the minute we say, okay, like take an hour and we'll do the next workshop. Don't turn on the TV. Don't call up your friends. Don't hop on social media. Use the downtime to be inspired by something we've said or something that popped into your head. It's one of the cool things about being an NF type is we don't need a lot to be inspired and like figure out how we need to change it. Some people need like a step-by-step blueprint, but we often like one sentence or one thought, and then suddenly we're okay, wait a minute, like, and then we'll take an hour. I don't know, maybe you're the same, but if I'm reading a book, it'll be like 10 minutes max. And then I read a sentence and then I walk around the room thinking about it for an hour.
Yeah.
How does this apply to my life?
Yeah, well, it's because the intuitives, they love to just skip ahead. They love to see just a little bit of what someone has to say, and then like go from there, explore all the possibilities of what that could mean, and like how it connects to what they already know, and that sort of thing. So that's a really good point. Like even if the noise that you're filling your head with, filling your time with, is good stuff. It's like, motivational self-help stuff. At some point, if you don't give yourself that break to let your mind and your intuition start to draw the connections together for you, then you're kind of just staying at square one the whole time because you're not giving yourself that breathing room. And the intuition really needs that. I mean, intuition, especially, I assume that extroverted intuition works in a similar fashion, but introverted intuition is a lot of times just going without you realizing it, and then it comes out with something after a while. Like you can't even follow the exact string of how it's cooking something until it emerges, and you're like, oh, that's what it means. I get it. It like emerges as some kind of vision. I mean, does that relate to you with an extroverted intuitive perspective?
I would say so. I would definitely say so. And I become very aware of this need for, reflection time in that as well. And it's not always like sometimes being with people and conversing or at least having input can spark the insights as well. So I need, extroverted intuition, but especially me, needs input as well, for sure. But, I left Canada in 2012 and have been traveling around. It was this goal to live in 5 countries before I turned 30, right? And so there were periods of loneliness because you're like, oh, okay, I'm in Prague now. Like, I don't know anybody. And so that, for me, I've always liked listening to things. Even as a kid, I listened to the local, like, Dr. Laura radio show where people called in with their love problems.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of my go-to is I'm in a new city and I'm lonely at first. And so I'd listen to lots of podcasts. When falling asleep, kind of you wake up, you're making breakfast and things. And I realized that the amount of insights I came up with and sort of intelligent, a better term, was greatly diminished when I switched to falling asleep to a podcast instead of like some weird electronic music that I usually like, or some chill out songs or nature music or something, or just silence. And same with sort of in the morning, that if I don't track my days because I'm an ENFP and tracking is, we get really excited about for like a week and then we stop.
Yeah.
People are always like, I found this new organizational system, Dan. I track everything I eat. I'm like, okay, let me know how long that goes. But yeah, if I were to track it, the times when there's a lot of noise, not 20 minutes of a video, like having watching a funny video or an inspiring video in the morning is great, but where you're always listening to stuff, I found it drowned out my intuition and my creativity in that for sure.
Yeah. So just for any late viewers here, we've got now 513 viewers. I'm talking today with Dan Johnston. His channel is Dreams Around the World. He's an ENFP, and he and I together are running a live virtual event the weekend after this upcoming one, so October 24th and 25th. You can check out more information about it and connecting with yourself, connecting with the world, connecting with your ideal partner, connecting with a vision for your life and making that come to fruition. I also want to give a shout out to Julie Prince. Thank you for the super sticker for the £3. We really appreciate the British money there. Thank you very much. Let's see. So what have we got next here on our agenda to talk about? Because we're talking about intuition, how you need to feed it a little bit, but you also need to give it some space to breathe. And a lot of times, we're talking a little bit earlier about finding out what do you want to do for your life. So a lot of times that's what comes out is those inspirational kind of ideas about where I should go.
Yeah.
Speaking of where we should go, where should we go next when we're talking about what we're going to be covering?
Maybe on the figuring out what you want to do, it does vary by type, what connects to some extent, but my general advice is do more, like learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
Because we learn so much more when we do something. Number one, because most of us are stubborn. So someone can tell you, like you can have a really wise mentor when you're 17 or something, say, hey, here's what you should do. And most not take it with a grain of salt at the very least, right? Because we have certain views about how we are and how we act in situations, and you don't really know until you get in that situation, maybe what the truth is, right? And so I like the doing more. I think the one thing you never figure out what you want to do in your life or what your strengths are for that matter is by doing nothing and just thinking about it. So It's always better to be, I think, like learning and reflecting while doing. And this is why I personally, no offense to anyone, but when people say, well, I'm taking time to just reflect on me, like it's probably not the most effective way to do things, because if you're just like reading books and watching self-help videos all day, I don't know, it's just not a good recipe. I don't know if I can articulate it better than that. Versus when you do things, you learn, you think, hey, I thought I'd love to date someone like that, right? I'd love to date someone who's really active and energized and would help me be more fit. And then 3 months in, you're like, I hate her. She wakes me up every morning when I'm in the middle of an awesome dream. No, not a personal story. I've made up an improvised story. But do you know what I mean? Where when we actually jump into things, if you succeed, you learn. And if you fail, you learn even more. Because you're like, all right, that's definitely not for me. And then you can sort of readjust. Where if you spend 5 years, 10 years, let's say, hating your job, but not wanting to quit because you're not positive what your perfect job will be yet, the odds are you won't find that perfect job while you're in a job you hate, sort of thinking about what it would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just bringing some reality to it. Like, because when it's in your head, it's weird because it feels sort of like it might be real up there, but it's not really. I mean, I made a video basically about this topic a couple of days ago. Y'all in the chat, you can check it out. What did I title it? Why INFJs get stuck in life. because basically it's like they get stuck on a vision they have, because intuitives in general are all about, the vision that they have, and they're very driven by that. But the problem is that there can be this thing where, I'm afraid to like bring it out into the real world because it's not going to be the perfect thing that I have in my mind. You know what I mean? So it's going to, once you get it out into the world, just start to take the first few steps. It's going to become imperfect. It's going to become messy. It's going to become, a bit ugly. And in a sense, I think people are just afraid of having that reality smack them around a bit. But the thing is, like, you're perfect, even though it's a little rough around the edges. Like you brought up with a relationship, you think, oh, this kind of person will be perfect. But yeah, you don't know until you date them. Like, and then there might be someone else that you're like, I don't think much about. That person doesn't appeal that much to me, but I'll give them a shot. And then you date them and you find, oh, in reality, this is a much more compatible kind of relationship that maybe isn't like the perfect Disney fantasy that I had in my head, but it's actually much better than that in a way. And in some ways, because of the imperfections and because of like all the I don't know, just weird reality of it. Just a couple more super chats we got here from Marco Hitzner, saying, you're an inspiration. Thank you. I assume it'll be for both of us. I don't know. We can't say exactly.
I assume it was just for me, but I guess we can. It's your
just
super
for Dan.
chat. So
And then Victor Daniel Amaya says, help me find my INFJ friend. LOL. Take care, guys. ENFP here. Love y'all. Help me find him. Well, thank you for the super chat. I guess we'll help you find him. Not sure how, but if you guys know Victor,
I know how.
Okay.
NF Connect, the greatest event ever
probably
held.
Where he'll be.
There's an option to do a third day of group coaching where you'll be in a group of maybe 8 people with myself or Frank, and there's probably going to be an INFJ in that, I would guess. So you could make friends.
It's a long shot, but it just might work.
It just might be possible that someone else who's equally interested in developing themselves and is put in that room with you.
Yeah, generally at that event will
friend.
be people interested in that. I also want to point out a few comments dragging me, saying I look like I just woke up. I've been awake for a while. Thank you. It's just the lighting.
I always thought that was your image, though.
That was my image. Well, my hair, yeah. My hair I haven't done anything with. I mean, I just assume that people are talking about the bags under my eyes because that's what I'm most insecure about. But I don't. But I don't
get
know.
it too. I'm just allergic to everything. People be like, Dan, you look like you need to rest more. During the first month of quarantine in Spain, people are like, you need to rest more. Like, you look really bad in your videos. And I was like, I don't use an alarm and I sauna every day and relax. I just have allergies, so I always have bags under my eye.
Oh yeah, that might be what's going on with me.
Nothing that can be done about this.
I need to get some Claritin D right after this. I've got to run down to the CVS.
Claritin D. So that your YouTuber fans don't worry that you hate your life and or aren't sleeping.
It's like a really sneaky sponsorship. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Not spons. The reality in general, though, for the intuitive types, and by the way, I feel like this is what they do in radio, and now I understand. It's like, for those of you just joining us, this is Dan Johnston from Dreams Around the World, ENFP guy. He and I together are doing NF Connect Live, a virtual event, October 24 and 25. We're going to have a bunch of workshops over the course of 2 days to help you connect with your best life. And so we're talking a bit about the themes we'll be discussing that weekend. You can read more, get a ticket at infj.me/event. And so, yeah, we've just been talking about intuition and how intuitives kind of struggle with having a vision. They have something they want to do. I've seen, Dan, have you seen this with people you're talking to, people you're coaching? It's like they kind of know what they want to do, and then they just don't do it. Do you see that?
No, never. Yeah,
Never.
it definitely comes up, and it yeah, it's a significant issue, and I think it can happen for a lot of different reasons. There's the natural sort of like the obvious is the fear in that if you try to do what you really want and you then fail, then it's going to hurt a lot more than if you try for something that you don't really want and then fail.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I've had this thing come up, actually, this exact same example come up twice, which is just I've had the scenario come up twice where someone's joined my program and their initial goal, what they tell me is, I want to be a freelance copywriter, right? Those who don't know, is like a writer, advertising or sales theme to it. It's not just writing, whatever. And I always get to know someone who joins the program and kind of pick their brain before we get into the group coaching, because then it goes smoother and everything else. And I'll think of the first person, and I start talking to him. He was this Aussie guy, and get into, okay, why do you want to be a copywriter? And we go through, and he's like, well, I think it will be sort of easy, and I want to learn, like, do some kind of business, and like one day I want to be a health coach. Why do you want to be a health coach one day? Well, I have a degree in health. I'm obsessed with it. He had a personal connection with it as well, where it had a big impact on his life, making some changes, and someone he loved, and all this sort of thing. And it's like, okay, I don't want to ask the obvious question, but why are you becoming a copywriter then? Like, and it was, I forget even his wording. His wording didn't matter though, because it was that no one profession is easier than the other. Now, some will be easier because we have a natural talent, or there might be market differences, and copywriting happens to be one where it's a little, if you're good, there's sort of unlimited work, just because there's not that many good copywriters. But that wasn't his thinking. His thinking was, well, this thing I don't want to do because I don't want to do it much must be easy. It's kind of like when we really want something, we assume it's hard to get. It was that. It was, well, I don't really want to be a copywriter, so it will probably be easy. But the thing I really want to do, despite having the education, the person, that will be harder for me. I think our mind can play these tricks on us, is sort of the summary, as it is, to think big, to admit what you really want to do. And it's, we have a big fear of judgment, most of us, right? There's a fear of judgment from other people. So that's why we hold back on telling other people. Like, it's funny, a lot of the times it's hard to even admit what you want, not even to go for it, but just to tell someone, hey, I'm never going to do it, but I'd really like to be a professional surfer. Like, I won't do it, but that's just what I would love to do. Like, people won't even say that a lot of the time, because it can be scary. And I think a few solutions with it. I think the easiest is changing peer, in my own experience, because if everyone around you wants to do X and you want to do Z, Z is always going to seem really, really hard. Yeah. But if suddenly you're spending all your time with people who want to do Z, then X would seem hard and Z will seem easy. And that, like, someone asked about meeting an INFJ, and we joked about the event. But really, when I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I'd went to university, did a psychology degree, and most of my friends were sort of lawyers or going into med school or kind of more traditional things. And I went out of my way to go to events where I would meet entrepreneurs or people interested in self-development and all that. And met a few weird people along the way, but like eventually met some really quality people. And then if everyone you spend time with wants to do the thing that you want to do, suddenly it's not this scary, awkward thing to admit, right? It's like normal. It would actually be more awkward to tell them your BS dream about being a, forensic accountant for a pet store chain or something. So,
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know, let's call it the life hack, is change your peer group. And it takes time. It took me years. It's a gradual thing. But if you change your peer group to people who want to do what you think you want to do, you're going to learn a lot about that. It's going to become normal, and it's going to really, really help with fear.
Yeah,
Or drink 2 bottles of wine and make a commitment you can't backtrack on.
yeah, just turn off that fear of future ramifications. But that's a great point that a lot of people, like even I, don't even think to do a lot of times is, and we've all heard, like, you're the sum of the 5 people you're around the most and things like that. So it's like if you're surrounding yourself with people who value different things than what you want, it doesn't make them like bad people or bad friends, but it's going to kind of get in your head a little bit to the point where you're going to psych yourself out. And I think what you started that with about how the thing that you really want, it's like you place a higher value on it, so it seems like it will be harder to get, like the stakes are higher to get it. Whereas if there's something you don't want, it's like, whatever, I can probably accomplish that. I think that's why so many people aim low rather than aim high. And it's not even necessarily one is higher than the other. It's just that's the way we perceive it in terms of its value. So, like if someone, all the kids today want to be a YouTuber or whatever. So to them, that probably seems really hard, but they're like, so I can probably be like a real estate agent or something, So they like aim at that instead, or something they don't want to do, just to pick a random profession. Not to say that it's easy to be a YouTuber, but it's like then there are people like me who, yeah, I enjoyed doing YouTube, but it wasn't. I kind of tricked myself into getting here in a way where I didn't. And it's like almost a reverse thing of what we're trying to tell people. It's like I accidentally kind of fell into it because I didn't think that it was something that I would ever be able to do. I had kind of resigned myself to,
Interesting.
yeah, I'd resigned myself to like, this would be a fun hobby. But there was a point where I was like, okay, now I have to make this step of really ramping up YouTube and doing more of it. And that was a
Yeah.
risk at that point. But I can see how if a person starts out from the beginning, like I really want to do this thing, they can psych themselves out to be like, I can't. If I want it, then I can't have it. It's going to be too hard to get.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
can blow things up in your head. This is ENFPs. We do this very well, right? In terms to actually take on, because we think about all the possible options, and in a moment we'll think about 10 years and all the things we will, this new business or job or whatever, and then we'll condense it down into a tiny box and then be like, well, there's no way I could do that tomorrow, so I guess I
yeah,
shouldn't do
yeah.
this thing. And it's like,
Yeah, and it's
yeah,
like if you want to do big things, like big great things, it always requires some amount of risk because there's obviously nothing guaranteed in life, and I think people are too worried about that. But it's like what you can have kind of the safe baseline life where you aim lower than what you want, whatever that is, or you can aim a bit higher and the risk goes up, but it's also like what's more important to you there. And shoot, there was another thing that you were saying that reminded me of something. And what was the last thing you
the,
said?
the making something big in your head, maybe something around that,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, one
making it
step at a
scary.
time. Yeah, if you want to write the next fantasy trilogy novel set, Lord of the Rings kind of thing, it starts with writing the first opening up the Word document and writing the first sentence.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're not going to write that in a day or maybe even in a year. And that's, to me, that's just like the easiest stand-in to think of for any kind of long process for anything that you want,
So
because
true.
when you're like let me it's gonna sound about the end point. I can't think about this being finished. I just have to think about the page or two that I'm writing today. And when you start off writing and you're trying to think about how quickly can I get to the finished product, that's when you get discouraged because you realize how far away you really are from it. But when you take your time and
Yeah.
enjoy the process, the one thing at a time, one page at a time, that's when you can actually, accomplish it and do better work and enjoy it. Because it's like when you're trying to fly as fast as you can to the end goal, whatever it is, whatever you desire in your life. If you want to um, build a business for yourself, if you want to find your one person, your ultimate relationship that will be, the person you marry, etc. And that's part of, it's like living and sitting with that uneasy feeling, that anxiety, and transforming it into, I'm going to focus on just today, just what I'm doing right now, and do it well and enjoy it. I think that's part of the key to getting there, to getting what you really desire. And really quick, for anyone who is new, just joining us, I'm being joined today by Dan Johnston. His YouTube channel is Dreams Around the World. He's an ENFP. Dan and I are going to be hosting a live virtual event together next weekend, the weekend after next, October 24th and 25th. It's called NF Connect Live. We've got a bunch of workshops that we're going to go over the course of 2 days about connecting with your best life, connecting with the vision that you have for your life, connecting with the ideal relationship that you want, connecting with your strengths. And so today we're just talking a bit about those themes that we will be exploring more in depth during the workshop.
Yeah.
And really quick, we got a couple super chats. Sorry, Dan. To interrupt you there, or you can be an E type but be kind of introverted and kind of lower energy, and you can be an I type and be a bit more type A, extroverted. So it's not everything, but it can get you there. And thank you, Julie, for the question. I appreciate that. I don't know if you have any 2 cents to add on to that question, Dan.
Can you repeat it? It was cutting out a bit
It
on the
got cut
audio. I
out.
know it was about energy and your personality type.
Yeah, that was it. Can understanding your type help with energy levels?
No, no, no. Of course.
And also,
It's
Matilda says, I hope FJ doesn't read these comments. I'm reading them all. Okay. No, I'm not reading all of them.
I can see none. I look forward to looking at. Well, I look forward, and I'm later and either cry or smile about me.
Yeah, or just good. You're just delete your channel. Just be like,
actually, on the energy levels. Yeah, tomorrow morning, Dan's off the internet. Yeah. So on the energy level, it's a huge theme of actually the event of I think it's the third workshop that I'm taking more of the lead on strengths. And it makes a massive difference when we're working in our personality. We have not only we don't use as much energy, but we often create more energy. It's like one of those I'm completely forgetting the name now, but like the engines that make power for themselves and they keep going forever.
oh yeah.
And it was in that movie, that name I can't think of as well, about the train that goes around the world forever. And anyhow, yeah, when we are working in our strengths and setting our lives up around our personality, you have so much more energy. I find, so I'm an ENFP, things that I do that create energy, brainstorming, connecting with people, kind of talking things through, filming videos, doing podcasts, coaching. These are things that generally clients, those are usually enjoyable, but kind of getting back to people on things or dealing with finances and that, an hour in, it's like I've spent 6 hours of energy on that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I do in my own life, very, very proactive with clients on this is and think big, like how you actually spend your time. And so 2 of the 5 workshops, I think, of the event are around this, of like what your strengths are, what you can do that will energize you and produce more value, either for your own business or your employer or whatever, so that you can spend more of your time in your strengths. And so, yeah, I'm always thinking about my days, how I can spend the most time in my strengths. And even within my company right now, we're a team of 4, and my goal is to get to 8 to 12 within the next 18 months. And it's about everyone working in their strengths, so that we'll all be spending at least 80% of our time doing the work that is best for our type. And then with that, everyone is more energized, more productive, happier. I could go on about this for hours, but maybe I'll leave it there.
Yeah, it's so important to also be able to recognize your strengths, because I mean, as we kind of started off the live stream talking about, sometimes you might be able to identify what your strengths are, but especially if you are an NF type, those might not be typically valued by the people around you or the world or the culture, society in general. And so then you almost feel like, yeah, I'm strong at this stuff that's not very useful. Like my strong suit isn't like, designing bridges or whatever, but I know how to reach people. I know how to connect with, I know how to talk to people. I know how to understand their problems, things like that, where it's like, maybe something that we were told maybe along the way, some kind of message that we got, that what we have to offer isn't that great. But I think it's important to realize what your strengths are.